In our next lesson, we're going to talk about airbrushing all of the beautiful flowers that we made yesterday. Now we've let these dry about 24 hours. Depending on your climate, you might need to go up to 48. I will say I'm in a very high humidity area in Florida, and as long as I am adding the CMC or Tylose powder, 24 hours is usually plenty enough for me. So for the flowers, we're going to use neon pink, white, and the Hawaiian blue, which are the same colors we use to get the palette knife technique with the ganache on our cake. So we're going to match our color fairly close to this, so we're staying sort of in the same color family. And then we've also got a grass green and a canary yellow, and we're going to use those for the leaves. The other thing I'm going to need today is just a skewer or a toothpick as a stirring stick. And then I'm going to be using my airbrush. This is an Iwata, and I don't airbrush a huge amount here on our cakes. This is mostly what Scott does. So I'm not going to get into a lot of technicalities on the airbrush. I will go over a few things. I'm going to have Scott do a full airbrush video soon. But for today, this is my Iwata. If you've got just a traditional cake airbrush, any airbrush is going to work just fine. And we'll go over all the particulars of filling our cup and then stirring, and then our trigger mechanism right here with how far back we're pulling to get the amount of paint coverage that we want. So let's get started. All right, let's talk a little bit about controlling your airbrush gun. So most of these are going to be very similar. So I'm going to go over how my Iwata works. If you've got a traditional airbrush machine for your cake, yours is going to work very similar. So our paint is going to go, our food coloring is going to go right in here, and it's going to come out of the front nozzle. There we go. And then this trigger mechanism is what I'm going to use to control the flow of paint. So if I'm just pushing down, it's coming out very slowly. The more I pull back, the more of the airbrush paint I am releasing into the gun until I'm all the way back, and that would be at full blast. So for these flowers, I'm really just going to be pushing in. If I'm pulling back at all, it's going to be very, very slightly. I'm only letting out a little bit of paint at a time for these. So keep that in mind. We're going to practice a few strokes on a paper towel before we actually get started. But keep in mind, we're keeping the flow of the paint from our airbrush gun very, very minimal to control how much is going on to the flowers. Let's go ahead and mix our airbrush colors. And remember, we're going with a very similar color to the periwinkle blue that we've used on the ganache for the cake. So I'm going to start here with just my clean airbrush cup, okay? And I'm going to start with white, because white is going to be what we're going to mix everything in. It's going to be basically our base color. So I'm going to advise that you go ahead and make enough right now that you don't have to try to replicate the color again. So you can see I'm about maybe a third full in here. Replicating the color again is going to be a little bit difficult when you're mixing. So I'm going to advise that you go ahead and mix up enough the first time around to cover everybody. So I've got my white in, and for me, I'm going to do, we're going to do 2 drops of the blue. And again, remember, we're going with twice as much of the pink as we use on the blue, and just go slow. And we're going to slowly mix. So I've got 2 blues, so I'm going to do 4 pinks. Okay, and remember, we can always add more color. Go slow as we're trying to get this beautiful periwinkle mix really, really good in here. The white that we've boiled down, how we talked about it in the ganache video, that white is a little bit difficult to mix the colors into. So you can see here's where we're at right now with our periwinkle. And I feel like we've got a pretty good match right now to the color on our ganache. So we're going to go ahead and stop. So remember, this was white mixed with 2 blues to 4 pink. So twice as much pink as you have blue, and that's going to give us our beautiful color to start our flowers. Let's get started on our flowers. So go ahead and test your airbrush a few times. Make sure you're comfortable with how much color is coming out. Again, remember, I am pushing down and barely pulling back to just get that slight flow of the color. So let's start with a couple of our larger flowers. And as far as flowers go, try to think about what's going to look the most natural. I'm not going to color my entire flower, okay? I want to pick spots that I think will look nice. So we can see on this one, we've sort of done the outside petals. We've done a little bit there in the middle. And again, you don't want to color your entire flower. We're looking to get layers of color on our flowers. Okay, so that one looks nice. A little bit on the outside, a little bit on the middle. Let's do the other one that's the same type of flower. Let's try to do those the same way. So when we're going for the same types, let's try to make them have the same overall airbrush. Okay, we're just going to go a little bit there in the middle, and then we can darken up these outer petals as we like. Okay, so there we go. We've got 2 down, easy peasy. Let's stay with the big ones. So maybe on this one, most of our color is centered here in the middle, and there's very little bit on these outer edges. So these types of flowers are what I'm going to call fantasy flowers, which means that we're not replicating an exact flower. We're not replicating a peony. We're not replicating a specific type of rose. So we've got a lot more freedom with these types of flowers to make them whatever colors and sizes and shapes and things that we need. I much prefer fantasy flowers to trying to replicate actual flowers. Fantasy flowers are much easier as far as I'm concerned. So now let's grab one of the petals that we made. This was with the peony cutter. So on this one, let's get, and the closer I get, okay, the closer I get with my airbrush, the more fine my line's going to be. So let's do the outside of these. Let's focus on the outside. And then maybe we'll go just one long strip down the very middle. See, that looks really nice. Okay, let's do that one again. Let's grab another one. Okay, so we'll flip it over to the back. And remember, on some of these flowers, especially the ones that you have wired, you will be able to see some of the back. So don't forget to give that a little bit of attention. Otherwise, it might look odd. Okay, so there we have the edges, and then we'll just come in really close and do the middle. And again, the closer I get to the flower, the finer my line is going to be. The farther away I am, the larger my spray is going to become. So we're just going to come in nice and close. Okay, see, and we're just hitting all of those edges, and then I'm going to come in really close and hit the middle. And these are looking really pretty. Okay, let's do it again. Flip it over to the back, come in really close with my airbrush, get all those edges. Okay, do it again on the front, and then right down the middle. Okay, let's switch to a different one. Let's go with these pretty guys. All right, so again, set it upside down, hit your outside petals just a little bit, just so everything matches. And for these, I think I'd like to go heavy in the middle and then pull my line out. Look how pretty that looks. Nice and two-toned. Okay, let's do another one of those. So we'll do a little bit on the edges and the back, okay, just so everything matches. If you happen to see that part on your cake, we'll go heavy right there in the middle, and then we'll get nice and close so we get a straight line, and we'll just push our straight line right out. That one looks really nice. I like that a lot. Let's do another one of those. So again, we're going to do the back. Okay, we're going to go heavy in the middle, and we're going to bring our airbrush really close to get that fine line down the flowers. Okay, now you can see I've still got a good bit here in my airbrush gun. Okay, again, that's why I'm going to recommend that you go ahead and fill as much as you think you're going to need so that you're not trying to replicate colors. Okay, and again, they're in the middle, and then we'll come in close and do all your same flowers in the same flower family. Have them look really similar. That's going to give a nice continuity to your cakes. Okay, let's grab this one. Okay, remember this was the double that we made. So for this guy, let's do a little bit back here on the edges. Okay, flipping back over. Let's see if we can come in close and kind of center, get these edges really well. Can we see that? Okay. And then maybe let's just do the tips of this one. Okay, so all the way around, and we'll leave our middle nice and light blue. Okay, so even though we're doing a lot of these in the same basic colors, we do still want them to have a little bit of a life of their own. Okay, so let's do the edges. Okay, and then on this one, we're just going to hit just the edges of the flower. So the closer I get, the more I can control my spray. All right, let's do another one. So we're going lightly on the back. Again, with these wired flowers, you do often see the back. And we're going to come in really close so we can control where our spray is going. And we're going to get the outer edge of those petals. And then we're just going to get the very inner edge. Okay, so pretty. All right, let's grab one of the clusters. So these are the hydrangea clusters that we did. So we're not really concerned about the back on this particular one because you're not going to see it. So I think here we'll go heavy in the middle of each cluster. Again, the closer you get, the more you can control your spray. Okay, so we've gone in heavy in the middle. And then let's hit these outer edges so that we can get, do you see how when we hit that outer edge, we're bringing out that stamped pattern, how you can see it so much better? I like that. So let's hit that outer edge where we're bringing out that stamped pattern that we put into the flower. Okay, and since this one's kind of got flowers that are going in all different directions, make sure you're turning it and you're getting all of those edges. Look how pretty that one turned out. I like that one a lot. Okay, let's do this. Okay, this is the other version of that one. Remember, so we went in real close and we're doing all of our middles. Okay, and then we're going to do the edges to bring out that pretty stamped pattern that was in the plunger cutter we used to make these. Okay. Just move it around. Okay, get all those edges. That one turned out really pretty too. Let's see, who haven't we done? Oh, we've got some little baby ones. Okay, so we have a ton of our little guys right here. So for them, I think I'm just going to do the middle. And I think I'm going to leave them just like that. I like that a lot, where we can see a lot of the light blue. Okay, so remember, the closer you get, the more you can control your spray. Okay, so we're going to right in real close, and we're just going to hit the middle. Okay, now if any of these aren't exactly what you would like, if you would like to spray any of them differently, feel free. You certainly don't have to make the same patterns that I'm making. Just remember, like we talked about, we want to keep all the flowers in the same type looking the same. That's going to give you continuity on your cake. All right, let's move on to do the leaves. All right, let's work on our leaves. Now, this is the color we have thus far, which I don't mind very much, especially when I put it against one of our flowers, but they're a little bit single toned to me, so I'd like to get another color on those. So let's make these more on the yellow side as opposed to the green side. So we've got some yellow, we've got a little bit of green, and we're going to come in with our stir stick. Now, I'm not going to add white to these. I don't really want them to look pastel. Let's see how our color looks here. I think I want to go a little bit more green. So really, in this case, you're going to mix until you're happy. Okay, but mix real good in your cup. Let's see. Okay, we're a little bit more green there. I don't want anything neon. So again, with the leaves, very similar to the flowers, want to make sure you get that back edge. And then on my leaves, I'm just going to spray them lightly, okay, just so I can highlight the impressions, okay, that we used on our impression mat. And I'm going to try to keep most of my color on the outside here, okay? So more on the outside, less on the inside. And then I think I'm going to come back and do my inside in just a little bit of a darker green, just so we have a couple of different colors. I find that the more colors you can put on things like leaves, on things like flowers, the more realistic you're going to get things. Okay, so again, let's try to keep the yellow on the outside of these, and then we'll come back and we'll do a little bit darker of a green on the inside. Okay, now with these, you can see I'm pulled back significantly more with the leaves, my airbrush, than I was. I was very, very close onto the flowers. I don't want quite so much defined lines on my leaves with this yellowy color that we've got. Okay, it bears to mention that in between these two colors, our periwinkle blue and our green yellow, that you have cleaned your airbrush very thoroughly in between these two colors. And also, before you have started to spray your flowers and your leaves, you have dusted them off really well and made sure there's no additional powdered sugar on them. So now I've just got straight green in my cup, and I'm going to go close because I want a line, and I'm going to go straight down the middle of my leaf, and I'm just going to get a little bit of a darker tone there in the middle. Okay, I'm going to do it again, just straight down the middle. Okay, so we're just getting a few different shades on our leaves. Again, we don't want everything the same color, and we don't want everything one color. Okay, remember, the closer you get, the more of a line you're going to get. So farther away and it's kind of a large spray, but then when I get close, I can get a fine line. Okay, again, farther away, my spray is big. The closer I get, the finer my line. Okay, now with these little guys, I think I'm going to do the outside a little bit darker only because they're so small. Maybe they're a little bit at the end. They're so small, I don't think I'd be able to get a good line down the middle. So kind of like we talked about for the flowers, feel free to do the leaves and such however you'd like, but just remember that what you do to one type of leaf, go ahead and do to all the leaves that look the same. That'll just give some continuity to your cake. Okay, and I think I'm going to come back to this one. Yeah, I like that. A little bit darker there in the middle. I think that looks really nice on these big guys. Okay, so this is the last little bit that we needed to airbrush. We're going to let all of this get nice and dry. So nice and dry to the touch. And for me, that's going to be about 30 minutes. Most of my flowers are actually already dry. I'll grab one of the big ones that we did when we first started. So it's completely dry already. But let's give everything about 30 minutes and then we will work on getting it attached to the cake. Now I'm noticing with this green that we made our leaves, when I put them next to the flowers, they're a little bit too bright for me. I'm just not, it's just too bright. I think they're going to be a little bit distracting on the cake. So to kind of mute these down, I'm going to use my Harvest Brown. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to spray these with my airbrush pulled really far back. So I'm not going and I'm not detailing out any specific part of these like we did when we did the veins or the edges. I'm holding my airbrush really wide because I'm kind of wanting to give them just a general dust of the brown. So you can see it's not a gigantic difference, but I think it's going to mute these down enough for me that I take out some of that really, really bright neon green that we had going on. So again, I'm holding my airbrush really far back and I'm just doing a really light overall dust of this brown. So you can see when I put these two beside each other, this brown is really giving me a little bit more of a golden effect to my leaves. So airbrush really far back, really lightly, really quickly, just a general all over dusting of this harvest brown. And we'll just go leaf by leaf and we'll add this in. And I really think it's going to help tone down this green and it's going to help give our flowers a little bit more of a realistic petal against them. We don't have really bright flowers, so I don't think we need really bright leaves. So let's grab one of our flowers and let's put it next to our finished, the browner tone leaf. That just looks so much better to me. Really happy with that.